Greetings, my fellow freedom sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is also known as Utah. And today's date, Thursday, August 20th, 2015. Yep, there's a few people out there wish happy birthday. Congressman Ron Paul, Shadi Hines, Tazi Cologne, and anyone else who's born this day, happy birthday to you too. Just thinking about all you folks out there. And I just like doing a little browsing. And I've been roaming around too for the past few days. It's just I have a life as well. However, I just taking the initiative on just browsing through a few things from yesterday, and something caught my eye here as well. So it'll be mostly domestic, state, local, state and federal, so nothing really international. So, first thing caught my eye today, it's actually on this day in history. It's the 100th anniversary of the infamous Baralong incident. This was during the time of World War One. So it actually came out yesterday, to be exact. And this was written by Kurt Wilde. And as it reads here, this is from the newamerican.com to be exact. So as it reads here, August 19th, 2015 marked the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the German U-boat 27 by the British cruise ship HMS Baralong, which is shown. There's a photo of that. An infamous and barbaric act in which the British completely disregarded the cruiser rules of warfare. The U-27 captured the British cargo ship Nicholson while complying with the cruiser rules. U-27 surfaced and announced to the crew of the Nicholson that their ship had been captured. After boarding the captured vessel, the Germans discovered things it was hauling military cargo and told its sailors, 8 of them whom were Americans, that it would be sunk as soon as its crew were evacuated into lifeboats. Baralong appeared in response to the Nicholson's distress and pretended to be an unarmed U.S. ship preparing to pick up the Nicholson crew. It was flying an American flag, had a large board with stars and stripes painted on it. However, behind the board were concealed the weapons of a British warship. Reports that Baralong even hoisted a signal flag, giving further indication it was responding as a peaceful rescue ship. Under each such circumstances, the German U-boat crew was required by the rules of war not to fire on the Baralong, as it was performing a humanitarian mission. The Germans were also forbidden to fire on a ship flying by the U.S. flag because of Woodrow Wilson's strict accountability note of February 10th of that year, according to FirstWar.com. On February 4th, the German Admiralty issued a formal declaration which warned neutral shipping to stay away from the waters surrounding Britain and Ireland from 18th of February 1915 onwards, a pain of sinking. 6 days later, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, at the time maintaining a neutral stance, issued a thinly veiled warning to the German government. His strict accountability message made it clear that the U.S. government would not tolerate any strategy by the German Navy to sink neutral U.S. shipping at any time. The Baralong steered around Nicholson out of the view of the crew members of the U-27. While out of sight of the U-boat, the Baralong replaced the U.S. flag with the British flag and dropped the board that concealed the ornaments. What happened next was described by Colin Simpson in his book Lusitania. She opened fire on the U-27, which speedily sank. Survivors climbed aboard the damaged Nicholson, or stayed treading water with their hands up after picking up the Nicholson's crew. The crew of the Baralong shot every survivor from the U-27. The captain of the U-boat leapt overboard from the deck of the Nicholson when he saw what was happening and was shot by a rifle fire. It was only the protest of the Nicholson's American crew members to the State Department that made the affair public. It had it not been for the courage of the 8 American sailors who protested to the U.S. State Department of killing German sailors trying to surrender, the world might never have learned of this barbaric incident. Q ships, or Q boats, which they are also called, were top secret British weapons in World War One. Their mission was certainly enhanced by secrecy, as many military missions are, but secrecy was also necessary because these Q ships were violating the very rules of war. The American people were unhappy about the perfidy of British ships flying U.S. flags and were angered earlier that year when news broke that civilian British ships were sometimes sailing under the U.S. flag in war zones. The Q ships were conducting military operations under the protection of the American flag. President Woodrow Wilson defied public disapproval and granted permission to the British to fly U.S. flags on their ships, permission that he granted in a note to the British issued February 10th, the same day as his strict accountability note to Germany threatening reprisal if the Germans attacked U.S. ships. There are reports that some of Q ships did not exchange the U.S. flag for the British flag just prior to engaging and actually fought German U-boats for flying the American flag. Eventually, and after enough losses from false flag warships pretending to be peaceful ships on humanitarian mission, German U-boats stopped obeying the cruiser rules. Under the cruiser rules, submarines did not attack merchant ships without warning, but surfaced and allowed merchant crews to escape in lifeboats. Well, well, well. And I guess one of the reasons why later on in 1917 the United States got involved in the First World War. Another tactic from one of our sneaky presidents, Woodrow Wilson. I know the man made a mistake on signing the Federal Reserve Act. You can thank him. To all you people who are Democrat supporters. But regardless, I'm not going to use technically on a partisan basis, but rather disturbing actions. Never, ever should have happened. Trying to play the masquerade jack-o'-lantern or Trojan horse. It reminds me of the story when the Trojan horse went in the city of Troy, and everyone thought it was a gift, and the next day, battle happened. This is what I say, my friends. War is very dirty, very disturbing. But one thing you gotta know, hey, I just learned about this today, believe it or not, and I don't mind sharing it with you folks. When this stuff will ever stop? Another form of propaganda, I would say. On the contrary, we should not let stuff like this, not let this stuff happen again. But I know for a fact it is occurring. Look at Al Qaeda, ISIS, and a few others are actually jack-o'-lanterns, not true Muslims. And it doesn't matter if you support the faith or not. Just same thing, different package. But, I'll have to make that statement on it. So, next one here. Came from the 10th Amendment Center. And this is done by Mike Maharry. It is entitled Nullification Through Non-Cooperation Arrest on Solid, Rock-Solid Legal Ground. It says here, nullification feels a little rebellious. Declare that a state can refuse to cooperate with the federal government seems like an act of defiance. Perhaps this explains why even many supporters of nullification continue to labor under the misconception that it's always against the law. Last week, Ryan McMacken wrote a favorable article about nullification for Mize Daily. He hits the nail on the head when he explains that even the left understands the power and effectiveness of nullification through non-cooperation. They know that the feds can only do so much to enforce federal law on their own, without help from local government. Yes, the feds have their own federal agents, but federal police forces are actually quite small compared to state and local forces, unless, of course, the feds call in the military. But big federal enforcement operations tend to be PR disasters, as in the case of the Brady Ranch standoff. But while he clearly understands how nullification works and supports sorry about that, got a little glitch there. That's okay. Come on. Stop. Thank you. But big federal enforcement operations tend to be PR disasters, as in the case of the Brady Ranch standoff. But while he clearly understands how notification works and supports it as a powerful strategy to limit federal government, McMacken remains a bit confused about the legal standing of nullification through a refusal to cooperate with the feds. The misconceptions sneak in as McMacken explains the success of Northern abolitionists had nullifying the Federal Fugitive Slave Acts. He does a tremendous job illuminating history that remains a mystery to most Americans and dramatically proves how effective non-cooperation can be. But he wrongly declares that Northern efforts opposing fugitive slave rendition were all illegal. Certainly, nullification of the Fugitive Slave Act was highly successful and also very illegal. The federal law was clear that the runaway slaves were a federal matter, and anyone who interfered with it was in violation of the law. But that didn't stop those who lied to federal officers and helped slaves evade bounty hunters. Northern nullifiers weren't going to respect federal law in this matter because they reviewed it as immoral. Emphasis added. McMacken misses some important nuisance in his analysis. Prior to 1842, the states generally didn't try to directly stop rendition, but did create some serious roadblocks to it. These states often required slave catchers to prove that an accused runaway was in fact an escapee from slavery. Failure to do so sometimes led to kidnapping charges. For instance, the Pennsylvania Personal Liberty Law of 1826 required a slave owner to obtain a certificate of removal from a state judge. A Vermont law passed in 1840 mandated a federal trial for any accused fugitive. These state laws slowed down and sometimes fully prevented the return of slaves to their owners. While they were primarily designed to protect free blacks from kidnapping, abolitionists took advantage of these laws to protect runaway slaves as well. These early personal liberty laws served as a means to nullify in practice in the Federal Fugitive Slave Act of 1773 and were considered a legal approach by many. Others, however, disagreed. This led to Supreme Court's view in Prigg versus Pennsylvania, 1842. In the majority opinion, Justice Joseph Story held that Congress possessed the sole authority to legislate in the matter of fugitive slave rendition, and state governments couldn't physically interfere in any way, not even to protect free men from kidnapping. But the story buried a jewel in his opinion. What he held that states couldn't interfere with fugitive slave rendition. He said they couldn't even be forced to help. The fugitive slave clause is found in the national constitution, and not that of any state. It does not point out any state functionaries or any state action to carry its provision into effect. The states cannot, therefore, be compelled to enforce it, and might be well deemed an unconstitutional exercise of the power of interpretation. To insist that the states are bound to provide means to carry into effect the duties of the national government, nowhere delegated or entrusted to them by the Constitution. In 1850, Congress passed a more stringent Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. More Northern resistance ramped up. Some of these efforts were indeed illegal, according to the court's view in Prigg. Some state laws simply ignore the Supreme Court. For instance, several northern states passed new personal liberties law requiring jury trial before returning any fugitive south. Additionally, individuals assisting runaways and facilitating escape on the Underground Railroad also broke federal law. But many state nullification efforts took advantage of story opinions and prig and simply denied state resources or assistance to slave catchers. For example, the Michigan personal liberty law prohibits state or local jails from holding accused runaways, and the Massachusetts personal liberty law made it an impeachable offense for state officers to assist in fugitive slave rendition. These actions were perfectly legal, even under the court's view of the law, because they were applying the court's view that the states could not be forced to provide to help the federal rendition program. It's interesting because when you look at everything on this part, all right, when you observe everything here on this part, with the whole Fugitive Slave Act. This is before before the 13th Amendment U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. There are certain clauses about a free person has 100% rights, and non-free persons only got 60% rights. So technically, a non-free person is considered, in other words, a slave. So that's why they only got 60% of those rights, but the other states decide, hey, give them that trial. So who's gonna determine what those 60% rights are? But so the states, made certain particular states I've addressed before mentioned, have made that possible by creating these liberty laws, personal liberty laws. And I will proceed. That brings us to today. Mackin asserts that modern non-cooperation with the federal government is also illegal. But even do-nothing attempts at nullification remains on the shaky legal ground. According to modern interpretations of the Constitution, there is no legal provision for the state and local officials, including state courts, to refuse to enforce laws that modern constitutional scholars chain part of the law of the land. In fact, since Story's opinion, the prig, the Supreme Court has repeatedly held the same view that the federal government cannot force states to implement or enforce federal acts or laws. The so-called anti-commandeering doctrine bills on prigs, primarily through three subsequent Supreme Court cases, including New York versus U.S. 1992, Prince versus U.S. in 1997, which Sheriff Mack was involved in that, the Brady Law, and the National Federal of Businesses versus Celebius 2012. The Prince case serves as the cornerstone. We held that we held in New York that Congress cannot compel the states to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program. Today, we hold Congress cannot circumvent that prohibition by conscripting the states' officers directly. The federal government may neither issue directives requiring a state to address particular problems nor to command the state's officers of those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. It matters not whether policymaking is involved, and no case by case weighing to the burden or benefits is necessary. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. So, do-nothing attempts at nullification rest on a solid rock solid legal ground, even according to the Supreme Court of today. The vast majority of modern legal scholars and federal judges completely ignore the original meaning of the Constitution and fail to understand the proper relationship between the states and the federal government. They mistakenly believe the supremacy clause creates absolute authority for the federal government to do whatever it pleases as a result when it comes to nullification. Legal opinions aren't generally our primary concern, but they are helpful with the general public. McMacken correctly observed that mostly important nullification works, but correctly understanding the legal basis for non-cooperation makes it strategically easier to pass legislation that denies state resources, personnel, and assistance to the federal government. Insisting that nullification efforts are illegal only makes work more difficult. In case of state non-cooperation, we have the law, even the Supreme Court, firmly on our side. We should use that to our advantage. And Mr. Mahari is absolutely correct. That's what the 10th Amendment's about. It can be nullified. See, the whole thing is, if you want to be part of the Union of the United States, you have to honor the U.S. U.S. Constitution as the supreme law of the land. However, the 10th Amendment, long is not prohibited in the Constitution. The right to state, the right belongs to the states and the people. So that's where we got states' rights from. And I know during the war of aggression, the war between the United States and Confederate States of America, the soldiers believed, the Confederacy believed, a lot of Confederate soldiers did believe on states' rights and, of course, economics. Slavery came in as a last resort. You can tell me I'm a racist and all that, and I don't give a damn, but I recommend everyone do their homework. Okay? There's a man who, a person myself, is anti involuntary servitude or slavery, except for time of punishment. Okay? So just to let you folks all know that. But many people know me, know what I've done anyway, if you hear my show long enough. And even if you look at Federalist Papers 46, James Madison made that same statement too about, I'm just paraphrasing, that the federal government cannot encroach on states' jurisdiction. So, just a paraphrase, you can look it up. I did a past podcast on that as well. Just look in the archives, Federalist Papers 46. You can read it. You can hear my voice. Doesn't matter. I have those links up there on my past episodes. So, notification's good. Notification's healthy. Thomas Jefferson supports notification. Founding fathers, James Madison, he supports it as well. Many others can do the same thing. Good example, like I repeat this enough times, USA Patriot Act. 8 states and over 400 municipalities are not honoring those sections, and plus the Domestic Security Act as well. Broward County, Florida is one of them. Look it up, man. Just don't be shy. Do your homework. I'm not here to tell you how to think. Just want you to make your own decisions, okay? But notification's good, and what Jefferson says, a little rebellion now and then is good. Okay? So next one here came out from the Buzz, the state to be exact.com. It came out August 17th. It's entitled Senator to Push South Carolina Gun Control Bills. And it's by Terry Lance. It says here, a Charleston State Senator said he will introduce gun control legislation in January in response to a recent gun violence in his home city. State Senator Marlon Kimpson, Democrat from Charleston, said the June 17th slayings at Emmanuel AME Church and more recent instances of gun violence show that they need tighter restrictions on gun ownership. All hail to involuntary servitude. Right there, Senator Kimpson. I'm going to keep going. A little sarcastic here. Next, and it goes here. Kimpson said he hopes that the state Senate will give his proposals serious consideration when it returns to work in January. I don't think there's any dispute that there is a direct correlation between weak gun laws and violence, Kimpson told the state on Monday. It is within power to do something about it. Kimpson's proposals would close a 3-day loophole that allows some South Carolina gun purchasers to buy and take home a gun before a background check that has been completed. That rule and errors in the federal background checking system allowed alleged Charleston shooter Dylan Roof to buy a gun. Reminds me of the whole thing with John Hinckley Jr., huh? I'll continue on. Require a background check to be conducted through the state law enforcement division and the federal system before a gun sale can be completed. Ban assault weapons defined as a semi-automatic firearms designed and configured for rapid fire. So if there's an invasion, you want little pellet guns, BB guns, and just a single shooter. All right, I'm being dramatic here. All right, and it says here, require reporting of lost or stolen guns. That's the people's decision, not yours. All right, I'm going to keep on here. Required state registration and permitting all gun laws. Well, hopefully he studied stuff what happened in Uganda with Idi Amin. He had a gun registration when he took over. He found out all where he lived. Yeah, he loves being a peeping Tom here, allegedly. Okay, continue on. The proposals likely face an uphill fight in the legislature controlled by gun-friendly Republicans. Pro-gun groups have oppose aggressively efforts to restrict gun ownership while backing proposals to expand Second Amendment rights. For example, GOP lawmakers who question the safety of letting gun owners with concealed weapon permits carry their guns into bars were targeted by pro-gun groups 2 years ago. That guns in bars bill became law last year. State Senator Larry Martin, Republican from Pickens, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee that oversees gun legislation, said that he opposes any new gun control rules that beyond that already exist in federal law. There is absolutely no appetite for gun control or gun registration, he said. But Kimson said the Charleston shootings, which killed 9 African Americans, including a state senator, opened people's minds to doing something that the state house have never done before. Okay, I have a question to you on that one, Mr. Kimson. Can you explain why the churches in South Carolina are gun-free zones? I will continue on. Less than a month after the shooting, lawmakers voted to remove the Confederate flag from the state house grounds, a feat many thought impossible before the tragedy. Also in April, North Charleston police officers shot and killed Walter Scott, an unarmed black man. The incident, Kimson said, changed the tone of the debate with respect to law enforcement, leading to the passage of state-wide law requiring police to wear body cameras. Kimson said he hopes his proposal will start a debate about curbing gun violence, adding that they should not be seen as penalized people who lawfully own guns. Well, I have to disagree with you on that, Senator Kimson, but I'm going to continue on here. If this legislation is passed, criminals will face more penalties and more checks will be in place to keep guns out of the hands of the criminals, he said. Well, this perspective there, I have to make it clear. So you're going to support, if these people get penalties, you're going to be supporting a victimless crime bill. Okay? That's what you're doing there, Senator Kimson. And I'll let you know one thing. Here is a fact that I know it hurts. Sorry, Senator Kimson, but your bill is null and void. Any questions? Re-examine Article 1 of your state constitution in which you have an oath to honor both U.S. and your own state constitution. And let's all read what it has to say here, okay? And of course, about privileges and immunities. Oh, actually, let's go here, Article 1, Section 4, okay? And it says here, no bill of attainder, ex post facto law impairing the obligation of contracts, no law granting any title and ability of hereditary emulate shall be passed, and no conviction shall work or corrupt blood or forces of the state. Okay, and we can go right down here on seizures, invasion of privacy, Article 1, Section 10. Rather, people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effect against unreasonable search and seizures, and unreasonable invasion of privacy should not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the people to be searched and the person to be seized and the information to be obtained. So that right there is a no-no. And of course, we can go here. Article 1 on Section 12 of Article 1, no person shall be subject for the same offense twice to be put in jeopardy or life or liberty, nor any person be compelled against any criminal case to be witness against himself. Okay, so we can just keep on heading down over here. The right to keep and bear arms. A well-regulated militia being necessary to secure a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. As in peacetime, armies are dangerous to liberty. They shall not be maintained without consent by the General Assembly. The military power of the state shall always be held in subordination to civil authority and be governed by it. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without consent, or in time of war and matter prescribed by law. So right there, it's the Second and Third Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. And we can just go on here. Right here, it's 23. The provision, which is provision of the Constitution mandatory. The provision of the Constitution shall be taken, deemed, and construed to be mandatory and prohibitory, and not merely discretionary, except for expressly made directory or permissionary by its own terms. So right there, it is null and void. Just giving you a few examples of Article 1 of the state constitution, Declaration of Rights. That's why Senator Gibson's referendum is invalid, null and void. End of story. If you don't like it, the people in that state don't like it. Too bad. Go by your oath of office and as registered voters. Next one here, I find is very interesting. Came out yesterday. It's the continuation of what's going on with two gentlemen that have been arrested in Denver for jury tampering because they were handing out information from the people. Oh my goodness, who got injured? Who got their space violated? Okay, well, this is from the FIJA, Full Informed Jury Association. Came out yesterday. It's done by Kristen Tyan. Denver DA creates countless fully informed jurors. That's here. Denver District Attorney Mitch Morese, with his enormous erroneous charges and prosecution of juries' rights educators Mike Anicelli and Eric Brandt. He's creating countless fully informed jurors. In just the last 24 hours, I received Google alerts showing what a great job Missouri is doing of getting information we teach previously only shared very locally at the courthouse out to the wider Denver community. Yesterday, the Denver Post editorial board published this opinion piece informing residents that, and there's a link for that too. It says jury notification is not a crime. It says here the district attorney's office says the two arrested men were targeting actual jury pool members. Yet, if that were true, so what? If they were not advocating for a specific course of action in a specific trial, how could they be guilty of trying to influence a juror's vote? As Colorado's law denies tampering. The jury notification literature, as it happens, merely offered the general statements such as juror notification is your right to refuse to enforce bad laws and bad prosecutions. 4 years ago, prosecutors in New York City charged a retired chemistry professor with jury tampering after he stood outside of a federal courthouse and information on airing jury notification. But Judge Kimba M. Wood of Federal District Court wouldn't buy it. She ruled that prosecutors needed to show the protester meant to influence jurors in a specific case and dismissed all charges. Denver's officials should be held to no less of a standard. And you can click on that too about the entire editorial, which not only argues the First Amendment rights to share our literature or even prospective jurors, but also acknowledges that jury notification is a mainstream idea and legal exercise as a juror. None some crank theory concocted out of the blue. A couple of historical corrections needed in this article: John Peter Zenger and Andrew, not Alexander Hamilton. Additionally, Mr. Morese has also managed to make this such a newsworthy event, and it has been reported on television as well on its Denver CBS affiliate, which I think is hilarious. I'm like laughing at this guy, like a total fool of himself. It says here CBS in Denver not only show our your jury's rights, true or false, Borchard, to all of its viewers, but also inform them that jury notification is when a juror believes the defendant is guilty of a crime, but disagrees with the law and returns a not guilty verdict instead. If Mr. Morese's intent was to keep jurors in the dark about the full-length legal authority to conscientiously acquit a via jury nullification, he is failing miserably. The fact that is putting this information in the media spreads it to far more people much faster than handing out in courthouses. Moreover, Mr. Morese is so short-sighted as to fail to anticipate what will happen if he should push this all the way to trial by jury. It's going to be interesting to see how a prosecutor is going to deal with one imagines would certainly to be fully informed jury that our literature would presumably be in evidence. What kind of rapport can an attorney establish with the jurors who realize that the mission in that courtroom is not only to keep them, but all jurors in the dark after the right to vote not guilty when they believe the law is unjust or that the prosecutor is unjustly abusing in his case before them. I think it's fantastic. I saw this yesterday, my friends. I was laughing so hard, and I did a couple stories on this as well. And I gotta say about District Attorney Mitch Morezi, how they feel breaching your oath of office under Article 12, Section 8 of your state constitution. Do you remember those two state senators that got recalled because of the so-called gun laws they want to pass, which was still unconstitutional under Article 2 of your document you're supposed to uphold? That's right. Not because it was a gun law, but they breached their oath under that same article, what you're doing the exact moment. A ditto practice, I would say. So I would recommend the DA Mitch Morezi to repent by dropping the charges and have an open apology, written apology to the state of Colorado, especially in Denver, that I made a terrible mistake by wasting your tax dollars to arrest people on victimless crime laws. If not, it shows me and to the people out there, your manhood is nothing but useless, dead pimple on someone's buttocks. And I do digress. That's all I gotta say. So I love every minute of this. Keep it up. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you don't repent, they do a recall on you, I'll be laughing. And if you're going to cry, good. All right. This one I checked out yesterday, and I thought it was very interesting. This is from DavidIcke.com. You can say whatever you want about the man, but I'll say one thing for sure. He has some real cool information, and he's not afraid to share it, and you can take the initiative on doing your own homework. And I know many people are talking about this. I have addressed this in my past episodes. But here's something interesting. It says here, American journalist kicked out of UK for investigating VIP child abuse and Edward Heath. And it says here, Leah McMath Goodman, an American journalist expelled from Britain for investigating abuse allegations against Edward Heath, speaks to LBC. McGrath Goodman is a respected senior writer with Newsweek, says she was expelled from Britain because of her investigation of the allegations of abuse surrounding former Prime Minister Ted Heath. You wonder why they would take so much trouble with you unless they really want to scare you off. I felt like the attempt was to intimidate me, said McGrath Goodman. And there was like a good 5-minute, 23-second interview on this. So, and I heard it, and I know one thing. Many of us were crazy in the beginning. Again, a lot of people talk about this question what's going on in Britain and other parts of the world with this whole demoniac kingdom. Now a lot of these people are running around naked. They're afraid because things are happening over there. Things are being exposed. And many of those folks call conspiracy coups, conspiracy theorists as some nickel and dime alibi. But now it is backfiring, right? I can say this, these people are shaking in their boots because with technology, they're being exposed a lot quickly compared to 50 years ago. So you know what? Shame on the corrupt bastards out there, the wankers that they are. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of awesome people in Brooklyn. I love it. What's up, man? And so that's what.
Play Long Boy today.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you can get some help from it.
All right. So this is what's been happening. So definitely, we'll just keep the pressure going. Yeah, no worry about it. It's okay. Actually, I'm podcasting. doing a little show.
Hi to Jake.
Yep, you say hi to Jake. Oh yeah. So
Some attention.
yeah, it's all good. Took his walk.
I know.
He took his walk.
I I had some harsh words for you that one day. I know.
It's all right.
Just being a dog.
Exactly.
I want to chew on Shasta's power cable here.
Right there? Yeah. Yeah. All right. You know what? That'll be it for now. It'll be pretty short. But thanks for listening. And please feel free to download and share this episode throughout your entire social media network. If not, or you have any questions, recommendations, love letters, hate letters, doesn't matter. Use decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. Or you can email me at lokiluck3@gmail.com. Furthermore, send me information too that's interesting. All right? Once again, thanks for your time. Let's always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.